This is the Future of the Future show. I am your host, Mateo Bervejillo. This episode is really a lot of fun for me. I'm going to interview a fellow Uruguayan, an entrepreneur, a business leader, and a musician, someone that makes a living out of being a musician in different ways, lives in LA, has played with very, very big names, but I will let him really tell you the rest, his story, how he got to where he is today and everything that we want to discuss. Nacho Gonzalez Nappa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Mateo. I'm very excited about this chat.
Very good. For the benefit of the audience, Nacho, what do you do today for a living?
So my main gig is really write music for games. I work in the game industry for the past 8-10 years almost, and I've been doing that with a lot of fun. I write mainly orchestral music mixed with Latin American music. I have a background also in entrepreneurship. I work in Un Techo para mi país and Techo for like almost 10 years also. And when I was 28, I left everything I was doing and I switched to music. It was an amazing decision, a challenging decision, but a decision I'm very, very happy I made at that time. And basically what I do today in my day today is I mainly compose music. I also teach music in Berklee, Boston. So I teach remotely. I don't have to fly there. I don't have to cross the whole country. And that's basically what I do.
What achievements make you proudest in your career? What are the highlights in everything that you have done so far?
So, in terms of music, I would say there are a couple of things that I'm very proud of. One of them is a concert we did in the border between Mexico and the US 2 weeks before the elections in 2016. It was broadcasted to 80 million people, and we had basically all the best artists from Latin America, from Alejandro Sanz to Jorge Drexler to Natalia Lafourcade to René Perez. At that time, the most important Latin American artists were there. And this is a random idea I had in a chat with Jorge Drexler and Javier Limon, and we proposed this to my boss then, who was the president from Univision, and we proposed him 2 ideas. One of them was to do a documentary that we ended up doing at the end, but at that time he rejected that idea, and he said, and then we proposed him another idea, which was like, there's no way he's gonna give us a green light on this, and that was to do a concert in border between Mexico and the US, and he said yes, and then we had to figure out how to do that. It involved asking for permissions in the White House and the Department of Homeland Security, getting all the artists in record time. We proposed this idea, I think it was in May, and we had like 3 months or something like that to execute it. That was one of the craziest things I've ever done. Then in Techo, many crazy stories from working in places where basically the government doesn't have access to places where it's in the richness of the people and the basically the experience of being there. And realizing how privileged we are with the education that we had and with the material things that we had access to, but at the same time being able to be there and learn from these communities was always a highlight. And then finally, I would say also that decision that I mentioned before, like that was also something that I'm very proud of, that I made that decision when I was 28. I left all the entrepreneurship and the nonprofit world that I was leading, and I jumped into a new world that I had no idea how it worked, what were the rules, if I was good at or not. And I didn't want it to become like 40 or 50 and say, hey, I wish I dedicated myself to music. And it was challenging because I was 28. I won a scholarship to go to Berklee, which is an amazing place. And these kids can't play. So all of them were like 10 years younger than me. They were absolutely incredible, and I was like catching up and figuring out how to catch up. And I think one of the most important things in music is not to do music to be better than someone else, but basically do music to figure out who you are. And that's how I try to approach music. I do music to understand better myself, to figure out who I am, basically. So that decision was a very, very defining moment in my career.
When did you start learning music? Tell me more about that, right? Because you need a certain level to get to where you two are, right? So when did you start learning music? How was that experience, that first encounter with that first instrument? Was it at home? When,
Yeah, so I started with music when I was 5. There was a piano in my house. I started with classical music. We had a teacher that was very, very strict, very old school. And I used to play more by ear rather than reading. And that teacher was forcing me to read. So, and we are 4 siblings. So each of us had like a class after the other. And I remember I was probably the most energetic out of my 4 siblings. So I was really waiting for the lesson to finish to go back to the street to play soccer or to do something else in the street. So that was my first encounter to music. I quit when I was 7. So from 5 to 7, I studied music. I retired when I was 7. And then I came back to music when I was 12. I came back to piano when I was 12. And around 15, my oldest brother came back from the summer with a guitar that someone else gave him a guitar and say, hey, can you take care of my guitar for a couple of weeks? And when I played the guitar, I absolutely fall in love and started basically picking songs from ear. And a couple, I think 1 year later, when I was 15, something like that, I got my first guitar and I stayed with the guitar since then. So I started like learning, studying the guitar when I was roughly 15 years old and never stopped. So when I was working at Techo, I remember I spent like 3 or 4 years traveling nonstop. I was the head of fundraising in the US, and basically during those 3-4 years, I was not longer than 2 weeks in the same city, and I was sleeping in couches in houses of friends, of volunteers. 1 week I was in San Francisco, the other week I was in New York, the other week I was in Miami, the other week I was in Mexico City. You know that.
Yeah.
And it was, but I was always with my guitar, which I wish I played the flute or the harmonica or I was a singer, but unfortunately I was a guitar player. So there was a moment that it was so painful to travel with a guitar that I say, what the hell am I doing? I need to give a shot at focusing 100% in music, because at that time I was like, basically music was like 5% of my life. When I was 26, 27, something like that. So I came back to Uruguay, and I left Techo and I started another project that is called Social Lab. At that time we had offices in Chile. So Maxi Perez, which is another guy from Uruguay, a very good friend, we started executing the international expansion of Social Lab. We opened offices in Montevideo, in Buenos Aires, in Bogota. But I was traveling a little bit less during that time, and I started building my own music school then. So I started basically taking private instructions with the best teachers I could get access to. And that's where in a TED conference, I met a teacher called Gustavo Casenave. He went to Berklee, and I started studying composition with him. And that's basically when everything changed, because until the time I was always doing the music from someone else. And when I discovered that I could actually do my own music, I know this sounds like strange, but when I discovered that I could really do my own music, and I started notating my own music, and that basically changed everything. And I said, I really want to go 150% on that. And that teacher gave me all the confidence, all the support, and was like the right person in the right moment, giving me all the support that I needed. And he told me, if you want to continue this, you should go to this place. It's called Berklee. And go from there.
And so you were playing mostly on your own, or were you playing with bands as well? Were you showing it that to people, or was it something that was for you when you were alone, traveling, playing the guitar?
No, it was mainly alone. I played with some bands. So I played with Abuela Coca, which is a very, very well-known band in Uruguay. I played also a couple of times with Curopa, which is another band. I had my own band, but when I moved to Boston, it was a completely different experience because I live with our musicians. I
Right.
live in a neighborhood where everyone was musician. One played the guitar, the other one played the bass, the other one was a trumpet player, the other one played an instrument that I never saw in my life. So, and then you have access to studios, to musicians, you have the time, you have the focus. So I didn't have to travel. My email was not exploding all the time with random requests. Was always music, 100% music. So when I moved to Boston, it was really, it gave me the chance to really focus 100% in music.
So it's not easy to get that type of scholarship. It's not easy to get into Berklee, right? What do you think were the main assets that you had? Was it your skills? Was it your consistency, your discipline? Was it all of the above? What is the key to that you think got you to that place?
Yeah, I think for me it was like, hey, I'm already doing this. That I've been very successful doing this other gig, and I want to give up all this, and I want to go to music. And it's like going to an island and burning the ship. Like I want to do that because I want to try this. I want to see if I can survive in this island. And one good decision that I made is in the audition I played tango, which is very few people were going to play that. And I've been studying tango at that time for like 10, 15 years. So I really knew how to play tango, and the guitar tradition in tango is something absolutely beautiful. And I was lucky to study for many, many years with Julio Covelli, who was a guitar player for Alfredo Zitarrosa. And he also basically played with the who is who from tango. So I really knew that, and I love that tradition. It's like I feel home when I'm playing tango. I feel home, right? So I didn't went there to play a jazz standard or play like a rock tune or play like something in their language. I play something in my language, and I focus on that. And they like that a lot because they never heard what I played before, right? They didn't know who Aníbal Troilo was. They didn't know who Roberto Grela was. They didn't knew that language. So I think it was a good decision to do that. And then I showed them the passion that I had to jump into this adventure. I had no idea if I was going to be able to make it because I didn't have the money. So I got the scholarship, but then I had to live in Boston, which is really expensive. So again, I had many friends that helped me. Basically, some donors helped me cover the cost for the first year, and from there, I kept going. So it was a risky move, but I'm incredibly happy that I made it.
It's an amazing story. And so you talk a lot about that cultural heritage and playing tango, feeling at home playing tango, and how that, made it great in the audition. How does that cultural heritage play a role in the way that you now continue to see, compose, or perform music?
I think your aesthetic lens is the most important thing that you have as an artist. And that's even more relevant today, where almost everything can be automated, but your point of view is the most important thing that you have. So that's something that I think I try to double down all the time. A few months ago, I was talking to a Stanford professor, and he told me that there's basically this P-shaped person, P like the letter P in mathematics. and the P is like a table that has like two legs and then a top. So it's basically you as an artist, you have like the domain expertise and then the field expertise. So the field will be the music, but the domain will be music for games, for example, which is my expertise, right?
Right.
But on top of that, and this is the thing that is harder to teach, you can teach the field and you can teach the domain expertise. But the hardest thing to teach is really your aesthetic lens. And the aesthetic lens is really your taste, is your philosophical view, your political view, your the things that make you unique, and the place where you put the camera, the place where you put the shot in the movie, right? So that thing is harder to teach, and that has to do with the books that you read, that has to do with the music that you heard, that has to do with the place where you come from. And one beautiful thing about living outside from your country, from your native country, is that you get to appreciate more and more the beautiful things that you have back home. I always loved Uruguayan music. That was like, when I was the first thing, I was lucky to study with, in my neighborhood, there was a music teacher, and he exposed me to all the local music. And I've always been fascinated with that, but I never saw it as a superpower, as an advantage. And when I moved to the US, I saw that it was an advantage because no one was aware of that tradition, and I could double down on that, and that will open me doors. It's counterintuitive because you think, oh, I should do what the other people are doing, but there's no way you can succeed, especially when you move to a city like Los Angeles. Like the talent here is insane. Like you can find the best of the best in that specific thing. It could be orchestration, could be technology, could be here I have like a push from Ableton. The best guy from that this place, the push, maybe it's here in Los Angeles. So you have to find your corner and double down on that. And I think the best way to do that is to really to be honest with yourself and to connect with the things that make you tick, right? The things that are interesting for you. So I think that's the most important thing in terms of the tradition, that I was lucky to be surrounded by that tradition, with tango, with candombe, with all the local tradition from Uruguayan music.
I love it, and what you're saying is so relevant in today's world, right? You're talking about the aesthetic lens, the point of view, your taste, your philosophical view, and everything that you bring with you. I mean, the elephant in the room, right? AI. It's impossible to do a podcast and not talk about AI, right? But it seems that what you're saying becomes even more relevant in a world where technology is pushing everything to the limit, and anyone can go and use Suno to create a song. Is it going to be, a good taste, nice song, or is it going to be crap or whatever? So let's go there. Let's, tackle that elephant in the room and talk a little bit about technology, where things are in the music, and do you think that is really the differentiator, and even more so in today's world, that aesthetic view and point of view, and how do you look at things?
Yeah, I think that's basically accelerating that aesthetic lens. AI is really forcing artists to, if you stay in the middle, the AI is going to replace you. You're going to be, the closer you are to the API, the easier you're going to be replaced. So I think what I try to do is to be as analog as I can, like record things on my own, like try to make sounds that are harder to automate, because I have that specific guitar and I have that specific amp and I have that specific knowledge of that specific tradition that it maybe is not so close to the LLM. So that's what I try to do, but I don't have an answer. The revolution is so big. We're in the middle of the way. So, and I'm someone who is constantly reading and learning about everything that is happening in AI and in technology in general. But to be honest, there are days that I'm incredibly excited and optimistic and this is the best. And there are other days where I say, what what I'm gonna do in a couple of years. I'm gonna be replaced by, like that's an extreme, but I think it's like the gourmet restaurant is going to become more and more important, and people are going to gravitate more toward that type of cuisine rather than the other type of cuisine that is easy to be automated. So the more unique you are, the better position you are. Having said that, it's absolutely wild what is happening. Every week there's a new model, there's a new thing. So what I'm doing basically is trying to double down on my aesthetic lens. I'm reading books that are useless. I'm reading useless in the sense that I recently read a book about that talks about the useless things, right? And the useless things are probably the most important things in life, the things that makes us more happy, right? Useless in quote, because not everything has to be useful. And actually for an artist, it's very important to do things that are sort of like counterintuitive. It's like all the experience that I had before going to music, maybe someone would say it's useless for the music that you do today, but I see that it's completely complementary and it's completely useful for me to have a career in music, because I learned how business works. I learned how to have a sustainable career, and that allows me today to have the career that I have.
Tell me a little bit more about Brave Notes. How does your day look like? And a question I had with you is, you're running a business, you're talking to clients, you are doing a million things, you are teaching, right? What percentage of the day do you spend like really sitting down and composing or recording music?
So I compose roughly 50% of my time. All the rest of the time I have to be either doing business development or teaching or something else. So I try to have at least 50% of my time composing, which is basically when you work in media composition, which is basically what I do, you become what is called a house of department, right? And composition is one of the things that you do, but then you have to learn how to optimize Google Ads, how to file taxes, how to hire people, how to fire people, so you have to learn all those things that are non-music related, and it's the same as being an entrepreneur, really. It's the same as being an entrepreneur. You have to develop a product, you have to find your audience, you have to refine that product, become better, learn new things, go back and forth between progress and things that didn't work. So composition, yes, I am a composer and I wish I had more time, and hopefully in the future I can, hire someone to do certain jobs that I wish I could delegate. But today it's more like that. The question is more like that.
Got it. So you do music mainly for games, but also for films, podcasts, advertising. What are the main differences between each of them?
So for the past, I would say 5 years, I've mainly done music for games. And the main difference is there's a thing in technology that is called skeuomorphism, where a new technology uses things from the predecessor technology until it becomes its own thing. So, for example, when film started copying theater, right?
Okay.
Until developed its own language, right? At the very beginning, it was really a camera and a theater play. And then we started figuring out, oh, wait, if I do this slow motion thing here, or if I do this close up, or if like all these things started developing the film language. Something similar is happening right now with music for games, right? We started imitating music for films, which is linear, right? The music for film is when the composer receives the film, usually the film doesn't change that much when it's the final cut, right? So this is the film, and that's it. In games, we don't know what is going to happen. We don't know how long the player is going to stay in that dangerous place versus defeat the enemy versus running out of health. We don't know all that. So we have to write music that is interactive. We have to write music that adapts to whatever the player is doing, and that's basically what I do. What I teach at Berklee is all the software that is required to make adaptive music. There's one piece of software that is called Wise, which basically allows us to write music that is, implement music that is interactive, right? So instead of writing a full song, what I do is I write songs in phrases, right? And then I can randomize the order of those phrases, right?
Okay.
And I can, that with 30 seconds of music, maybe I can build like 10 minutes of music, right? Because of the randomization, the way it's organized, it never feels repetitive, right? So we started, similar to film and theater, we started imitating film. And right now, music for games is becoming a different thing. It's becoming a proprietary thing. It's becoming something unique that right now has a category in the Grammys, for example. It used to be like something that music for games was. But today, the game industry is bigger than films and games. Films bigger than film and music together. Right, so the game industry is absolutely massive, and you can see that in the talent that is coming to the game. People from Goldman Sachs and people from Google and Facebook, etc., are gravitating towards the game industry. And the amount of talent. There's an important conference in San Francisco every year that is called the GDC, and the things that people are doing is absolutely insane. So, and that's true also for the music. Like recently there's a game that is called Star Wars Outlaws, and then Star Wars Jedi. Star Wars Jedi actually had 9 hours of orchestral music, and they blocked Abbey Road for 27 days. So everyone was mad at them because they blocked the studio for 27 days. I don't think Lady Gaga has the budget to do that, right? There's no one that can do that. But the game industry has the ability to do that. So AAA games are developing music at the highest level. And in the case of Star Wars Jedi, it's a score by Gordy Hub. And the level of the music that these people are producing is absolutely insane. So I'm very lucky to be working in games right now.
What do you think is the future of this specific industry you're talking about?
So I think keep developing these features of becoming like making the player the editor and the conductor of your music, right? Because the more interactive it becomes, the more unique the experience is, right? And we want the player to feel that what they are doing was made for them, right? And that has a musical challenge, but also technological challenge, and that intersection is what I'm really passionate about. How to build systems that are really unique to the player, and the player can feel that, oh, if I play this game one more time, it's going to be different. The music or the experience is going to be different from what I did. So I'm very excited about that, to keep pushing the boundaries of what can be done in that area.
What would be your advice for any musician trying to make it in the industry? I know there are a million paths, right? And it's a very hard to answer question, but someone is listening and they go like, oh, I'm inspired by Nacho. What would you tell them? What would be your advice?
I think to make space to listen to what is exactly what makes you tick. Because it's very easy to fall in the trap to try to be successful in something that you are not passionate about. But I rather fail doing something that I love than succeed doing something that doesn't fill me, right? So I think listening to that inner will that you already have, and if you don't have it yet, try to find that. And then the other thing, for those of you who already found that, I would say it's doubling down on your aesthetic lens, like reading books that no one reads books today, right? So if you read 10 books a year, you are in the top 1%. So do that, because it's going to make you something more interesting. It's going to make the world bigger for you, and read things that are like, every year I make a plan of the things that I want to read. I want to read about philosophy, I want to read about technology, I want to read about business, I want to read about music, and make a list. And if you can, also take notes on the things that you read. I write about the things that you read. So I read and I highlight. I read both in Kindle and in physical books. Lately, this year, I've been mainly reading with physical books. And it's amazing because someone spent years probably writing that book, and you can have access to all that information in a couple of days. So for me, reading is a really very big advice to especially today where everything goes so fast. I think trying to go slower is the best advice I can give you, especially for artists. You have to be tuned with yourself if you want to be an artist. So that's very, very important for me.
Do you read many books at a time, or just one book at a time? You finish, you go to the next?
Mainly one book at a time, and I have a Notion template.
Okay.
So and I have basically one for the books and one for ideas, and I write down ideas linked to the books, right? So, but then I can, like, there are certain ideas that about singularity or about AI or whatever it is. And there are many books that talk about that. And basically I have all these ideas already there because of the highlights that I made and because of all the books. The good thing about reading in Kindle is that all these digital highlights, you have them already there, and you can not only write down your ideas, but you also have the highlights. But the good thing about writing down the ideas is that you are forced to explain to yourself what are the interesting things that you just discovered, that you just read. And then whenever you have to, it helps me think better. Like, it helps me clarify ideas. It helps me recognize patterns on the things that I'm interested on. And I've been doing this for 5 years already. Like doing this as I work as a literature reviewer back when I was at school, and in maybe almost like 20 years ago. I worked doing more about literature, but in the past, and I've been reading all since then, basically. But the last 5 years, I would say I took seriously the habit of reading, and I can say that I'm addicted to reading. I'm always like looking for the next book that I'm going to read, and writing down about the things that you read is something that I highly, highly encourage you all.
What are you reading today?
I finished yesterday a book about, it's called El Loco de Dios en el Fin del Mundo. It's from Javier Cercas. It's a Spanish writer that followed the Pope in his trip to Mongolia. Mongolia is a very important country because it's between China and Russia, and it has like a geopolitical, it's a very strategic place for the Western world. So it's a book that talks about the connection between faith and rationalism, and how we in the Western world, we decided to separate faith and rationalism. And in Asia, that didn't happen necessarily. So they have a different way of approaching reality. I recently read another book called The Day We Invented Reality, that talks a little bit about that, El Día que Inventamos la Realidad, and talks about that separation between intuition and rationalism, and what is very, very important today, especially with automation. There are certain things that are difficult to measure, and those are the things that define us as human, and those things are really hard to put in an algorithm. And yeah, I've that's what the thing that I finished yesterday. So that's I absolutely love that book.
Have you already picked up the next book? Do you know what you're reading next?
Yes. Yesterday I went to a bookstore and I bought. It's called It's from Miguel de Unamuno. He's a Spanish writer. Can't remember the title. Sobre la I can't remember la tragedia. Yeah. But yeah, I have like a pipeline of books. Usually I try to pick topics at the very beginning of the year, and I try to cover. So not only read about literature, but also read about nonfiction and read about business and read about music and read, like, have a plan of the topics that I want to cover, and then obviously break those rules and for example, right now I'm going to read Unamuno because in this book that I just finished, they talk a lot about Unamuno. So
Okay.
It's somehow one book leads you to the other one.
I love it. One final random question: Do you play games? Do you write music for games? Do you play games often, or are you so much into it that you rather just spend your time on books?
Yeah, I randomly play games, but I'm not a big gamer like that knows everything in and out. I used to play when I was a kid, but right now I don't have much time. I play the games that I produce, like that I score,
Right.
But and sometimes I play other games that, for example, I just finished scoring a game that had a big influence from another game, so I had to sort of like make research on that game. But I don't consider myself like a super hardcore gamer at all. I try to be on top of things, and since I'm teaching, I'm constantly getting exposed to new games, and people tell me, check that music system in that specific game, and also get to interview many people. So I had people from Naughty Dog, which is the studio that produces The Last of Us.
Right.
I had people from Ubisoft who produce Assassin's Creed, and I'm constantly being exposed to that, but I don't consider myself a hardcore gamer compared to other people, obviously.
Nacho, this has been I really appreciate you. This is amazing, super inspiring. I have a few. I love reading, and you gave me a few ideas of stuff to read next. Thank you. I hope that we can stay in touch and maybe do this sometime again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mateo.